I get it. Like, I think that anyone listening to this will probably still be like, I don't understand. That's dumb. But you'd have to live through it to really get it.
Welcome to Normalizing Non-Monogamy, the podcast where we interview incredible people from across the entire spectrum of non-monogamy to hear their fascinating stories. We strive to bring guests on the show who have a healthy approach to non-monogamy. However, it's important to remember that everyone does it a little bit differently, and the views and opinions expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect our own.
Additionally, we produce this show for entertainment purposes only. Please be aware that we aren't doctors or therapists. Consult a medical professional for anything regarding your health that you might learn about on the show. Enjoy!
Welcome to episode 119. We're Finn and Emma, and today we have an interview with Kerry and Andy, only it's told from Kerry's point of view, mostly to protect Andy's anonymity.
Yeah, Andy's anonymity is new band name, Dibs.
Yeah.
But yes, as Emma said, it is just told from Kerry's point of view, but it's an amazing story, and we're grateful that the two of them were willing to share because it's vulnerable, and it's something that I think somebody out there who's going through something similar is definitely going to relate to this.
Yes.
And it is a difficult situation that they went through. And it's exciting that they came out the other side and they're in such an amazing place.
Yep.
So we hope you enjoy it. And again, thank you, Kerry and Anonymous Andy.
She does have his full consent, by the way.
Yeah.
Only one announcement for today's show. We wanted to just announce our next Patreon Q&A. It will be April 22nd, which is a week from today, the release of this episode, at 9 p.m. Eastern and 9 p.m. Pacific.
Yeah, we've been doing these every month for about, the last 10 months or so now.
Since last summer, yeah.
Yeah, and it's been great. It's been growing every month, and the community that we've been building around this has been fantastic. People are really getting into it, and we've been doing some special game nights and some different things to combat the social isolation that everyone's feeling right now. So we'd love it if you guys would take a look and potentially consider joining. The core of it is every month we do a live video Q&A where you join us on Zoom. You can ask questions. The whole community chimes in, helps each other, supports each other. And at the second tier, you can also be part of our ongoing MeWe chat group where people are constantly asking questions, helping each other out, and honestly sharing pictures of the food they cooked that day.
Food porn. So yeah, we know that this time especially can be very difficult for a lot of you out there, and all of us are craving community and connection. So if that's something that sounds like you'd be interested in, go check out our Patreon or reach out to us too. Just send us an email you can find it on our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com. You can send us an email or a voicemail. We do respond to every email and voicemail. So if you're feeling lonely or just want to say hi, please go reach out.
Yeah, and maybe we could help find some resources or direct you in the way of some community. So thank you for that. Thank you for your support.
And thank you for listening to us ramble for a second.
And we hope you're staying safe and healthy and sane. And let's go hear what Kerry and Andy
Anonymous Andy
have to say.
Let's go. Well, welcome.
Yeah, welcome. And we're excited to have you. This has been almost, a year and a half in the making since first contact.
Since you first reached out to us, yes.
Yeah. So welcome, Kerry. We're excited to have you, and we're excited to hear your story. Thanks for reaching out.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to tell it.
Yeah. Well, we know a little bit of background, and it sounds like over the last year and a half, you've sort of found yourself starting to explore a little bit of a cut queen dynamic. And that's a first for us, but it doesn't sound like it was a linear path to get there, and we're excited to hear about it.
It was definitely like boulders, mountains, swimming through rivers to get there. But it was definitely an interesting story. But yeah, it's been really interesting and fun, and it's definitely a different dynamic than I'm used to hearing on your show. So definitely would like to kind of explain, and hopefully someone else can relate to it. And I'm not a total weirdo.
No, definitely not. And we're excited to hear it. So are you willing to maybe take us back, and maybe before that, are you willing to maybe introduce yourself a little bit for listeners and who are we talking to?
Sure. Yeah, my name is Kerry. I live in a big metropolitan area in the United States. I'm in my early 30s, and my partner is Andy. He is also in his early 30s. We are actually just a couple months apart. We met about 4 years ago now, just on a random night out at with some friends, and what kind of started as something really casual, just like a lot of relationships do, just ended up turning into, I guess, what we are now, which is a lot more serious, cohabitating with my 2 cat children.
They may make an appearance in the background.
I can see the ears sticking up over the pillow.
Yeah, she's a good listener.
How long have you two been together?
I mean, I say it's been the entire time since we met, but maybe like 3 years now. Okay. Yeah, officially. Initially, like I said, it was really casual, and when we first met, actually, we talked a lot about, our sexual adventures. And in the past, I'm bisexual. I let him know that. And we talked a lot about that. I talked about a threesome I had in the past, and he was really interested and seemed really willing to kind of go there with me. And that was exciting to me. But as time kind of went on, things kind of changed. As we started to get more serious, I kind of wanted to dial things back, and I didn't want to jump right into letting somebody else come into our relationship when I was having stronger feelings for him. So we kind of dialed it back, and I let him know that, and it seemed to be fine. And our physical chemistry, just the two of us, was just incredible. It still is incredible, but we all know how the beginning goes when you just can't keep your hands off of each other. And that's pretty much how we were for a good 3-4 months. And yeah, so eventually it started coming up again, and
having a threesome.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit more about it, and he started asking hey, would you want to do it? And I was just really iffy. I would say maybe. We kind of were looking a little bit, but I just never felt really comfortable. And I think that was in part because we started to kind of have more arguments. We were fighting a lot, and I didn't know where it was coming from. I noticed that he would get mad over really small things, really minute details, and it just got kind of exhausting. And when you're fighting a lot with somebody, it doesn't exactly feel like the safest place to start exploring with somebody else.
Oh, no, not at all.
Absolutely not. So eventually got to the point where we had a very specific fight one night about threesomes, and he was like, why would you do it before, but you won't do it with me? And I couldn't give him an answer that really made sense to me at the time, or to him. And he ended up saying, well, if you don't do it with me, I'll go find 2 other girls to do it with. And that broke me, because that was one of the first major fights that we had, and 2, just really threatening. And I mean, any normal person at that time, in my head, would probably be like, well, fuck this, I'm out then. But I just cried instead, and I broke down, and he apologized. But after that, I kind of noticed he started acting funny, and he would be very protective of his phone. He would just be acting really suspicious. And I can't really explain it. I think every girl who's gone through this before, just they just know when something's up, that something's up. So I ended up finding out that he was cheating on me, and it had been going on for quite a while at this point. So I found out 6 months after it started, because I finally just did the did the detective work and broke into his phone, and I found the evidence and I put it in front of him. And this was probably about a month or a year and a half into the relationship. And yeah, that's kind of what ultimately led us to, experiencing a very big trauma. So when I found out, he agreed to go to therapy with me. And I was just in my head thinking, man, I'm just one of those girls that you see on TV, or maybe we all have that type of friend that just stays with the partner when they shouldn't, and they try to make it work. But I can't explain why I stayed, but I just loved him. And I don't think he was particularly happy either. Like, we were constantly fighting. He constantly had to see me cry, and he still stayed, and I have no idea why. But we ended up seeing a therapist, and she was great. She helped us process a lot of things, and she helped me understand why he was doing what he was doing. It turned out that because he came from a very interesting upbringing, his family were immigrants. There's a big immigrant community where I live, full of people who are from his same culture. They're like European Catholics, much different than American Catholics. And just the men in his community did not value women or treat them with much respect. So he was constantly seeing his family members, friends, just other men in the community cheating on their wives. And he just thought that was a normal part of life. And among other things, like I was able to kind of understand why he treated me certain ways that I thought were kind of crazy, and we're crazy.
Yeah.
Right. So after going through that with you, I guess, did you see a shift, or has there been a shift in his approach to the relationship?
Well, totally. So one of the questions she actually asked us during a session was, have you guys thought about being open? And me being hurt still and just very sensitive at the time, I was pissed. I was like, why the fuck is this bitch asking me if I want to be in an open relationship after this man just cheated on me and shattered my entire life? And we actually stopped seeing her because she said that. And it wasn't until a couple months later that I was like, you know what? She's right. Because in actuality, like, neither of us have ever been faithful to our partners. He's been the only man that I've been with that I haven't cheated on, and the only person really. Prior to him, I was dating a woman, and I cheated on her, but we did it for very different reasons. He was a very physical person. He just needed the excitement, and I always found myself cheating, but with somebody I would eventually jump into another relationship with. I was always looking for a connection. And at this particular instance, he was particularly seeking out threesomes because he was so upset that I wouldn't have one with him, that I had done it before, but I wouldn't do it with him. So it was just extra hurtful.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So after that,
and a lot to go through, like a year and a half into your relationship too.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just one of those crazy girls that stays in just a bad relationship that was, chasing just the several months that it was good.
Right. Well, I mean, I guess just before we go further into the story of maybe the non-monogamous journey that we're assuming you go on together. I mean, are you, like, you say, like, I'm the crazy girl who stayed. Overall, like, are you happy that you stuck it out because it's come through on the other side and it's much better than it was?
Absolutely. This has been the past going on 2.5 years have been the best relationship I've ever had. And it's due in large part because we chose our alternative relationship style. And I don't think that I could have the type of relationship that I have with him with anyone else. at this point. And we're so far past that. It's still, challenging to think about. But I don't think we would be where we are. And I don't think he would be the person he is now. If we didn't go through that, I think he'd be still just a asshole douchebag.
Yeah.
Ashbag. So after we stopped seeing our great therapist who's doing her job amazingly well, because she pissed me off, I came to him and I said, I think I kind of want to try having a threesome. And what she had told me during the time we were seeing her also was we noticed that during this time where we were just miserable and crying all the time, our sex was so good. And it was weird. That was one of the questions that we asked her. We're like, why is our sex so good right now? We hate each other. Or like, I hate him and we're miserable. And she said, it's completely normal. And it has to do with, feeling like you might lose this person that you love, or feeling attraction towards someone else because someone else perceives them to be attractive to you too, or to them too. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. I never thought that would ever happen. But I'm glad that we're having this great sex because I'm so miserable, but I'm also crying profusely after my orgasm. So that sucks. So after we took the time to heal a little bit, and he had demonstrated that he was changing and the relationship was getting better and he was being very transparent, I was like, you know what? I want to try this. I feel safe. I do miss having sex with women. Like before I met him, I was only dating women at the time. Like I'd made up my mind. I was like, I want to try this thing with women, but then he came and just messed it all up. So I was like, I feel like I'm in a place where I can feel safe doing this. And that's when we started looking.
Yeah, I have a quick follow-up question before we move on to the threesome discussion. While you were going through all of this, I know you said in your head, you felt like just the stupid girl who's staying in this relationship, right? Mm-hmm. Did you have you obviously had support from this therapist who sounds like she was mostly amazing. Mm-hmm. Did you have support from other people in your lives, or was everyone else telling you that you're silly and stupid for staying too?
I didn't tell anybody else what had happened. I was ashamed, and I had already made up my mind that I was staying with him, so I didn't want their judgment. And
that's fair.
Going through this terrible relationship for the past year and a half, like my friends noticed that I was unhappy, and it was very clear to them. So they already hated him. I didn't want to add more fuel to that fire by telling them that he did this heinous thing and then letting them know, hey guys, I'm going to stay with him though.
Yeah.
So eventually I did tell them what happened, but that wasn't until later down the road when things got better and they weren't able to be like, well, you shouldn't be with him anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. No, and I thought of that question and was curious because I think that, it's different. You must have felt pretty alone a lot of times too, because you're going through this.
Absolutely.
Without having much support at all.
Oh yeah. Therapy saved my life and my animals.
Yeah. And animals definitely help too. Yeah.
So after we decided to step on the gas pedal, we started looking for a woman to, come hang out with us. And we jumped on Tinder because you can pay for the service to hide your profile from the world. So my coworker won't know that I'm looking for a threesome. So we made a couple's profile, and I didn't imagine we'd have as good success as we did. I was just like, wow, a lot of these people are open to having threesomes. This is crazy. And I don't think our experience is like everyone else's. Andy is a very attractive man, and I think that together we make up a pretty attractive couple. We're both very much into fitness, and I think that we kind of had a great profile. I don't want to sound pompous or very into myself, but I think that we're an attractive couple. We had not a big barrier to finding an attractive female that would respond to us. And the first person that we actually ended up hanging out with was a self-identified lesbian. And I was like, this feels really safe for me, but I don't know how this is going to work. So we just were chatting for a while, and we were able to develop kind of like a good rapport going on. And eventually we decided to meet up and have drinks. And she was beautiful, gorgeous. She was kind of younger than us. I think she was about 7 years younger than us, which I was a little nervous about because I think that a level of maturity might not have been there. But it was our first time. We were just like figuring it out. And she was cool. She was very much into me. She was a lesbian. But she got along really well with Andy. And I guess, partway through the night, we decided, like, let's go back home and see how this goes. And she was telling us, like, her boundaries, and she didn't want to go down on him, but she was perfectly fine with penetration. But once it started, it was a little weird because I could clearly tell that she was a lesbian, not used to having sex with a man. And Andy is pretty well endowed, and so I just felt like she was hurting, and it was just a little awkward, but it was still like fine. It was fun, but for some reason it wasn't my, I thought I would like it more.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that was cool, but I don't know, maybe we should try it again, because I don't think that was the right situation. And so not like this happened the next day or anything, but like several weeks later, we met up with another girl, and we met up for drinks. That's all. And we hit it off. Like, we're great friends at the end of the night. We didn't do anything that night. And I really liked that part, because I feel like I just really need to have the connection with somebody in order to engage in any type of sexual activity with them. So I really liked the fact that she seemed like a friend, and I was attracted to her, and she was bisexual. Mm-hmm. She was not into just one of us. And so that night, the next time that we hung out, we got drinks, and it was just like a mutual understanding that we were coming back to our place. And it ended up being magical. Like, I was like, this is what I was looking for. And I think for me, the moment I knew it was like awesome was when he started hooking up with her, and I was like, wow, that looks great. Like, this is turning me on. I was like, so turned on. I had like 3 orgasms. I was just over the moon. It was just amazing. That was like one of the best orgasms I've still ever had. And we continue to see her a couple of other times. And I had even hung out with her as like alone as a friend. Like, we went off hiking, and it was cool. But then she started asking if she can see me separately, intimately. And we weren't there yet. And so I think she got a little too deep in, and we had to cut that tie. Cause it just, we were so new. We didn't have our communication had already improved so much, but we still didn't have those communication skills to talk about what that meant and what it could mean. So that was kind of our intro into not being ethically non-monogamous.
Yeah. It sounds pretty cool that you found a magical experience like your second time. Like that, in the first one, it doesn't sound like it was awful. It was just a little awkward, sure, which they can all be awkward, right? But
and I have to imagine that it was probably just, you probably keyed into the fact that she really wasn't there for him.
Totally.
And that would make me uncomfortable.
One, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That would,
yeah. Considering where I'm at now, that totally makes way more sense to me, like why I didn't enjoy that. Like, you think that a girl who was focusing just on me. I'm bisexual. I would be like, oh, this is great. This is wonderful. I don't need him. But that was actually a huge turnoff because I felt like, one, he wasn't included, and two, he wasn't enjoying himself. And that wasn't sexy to me.
Yeah. I'm going to interrupt you for one quick question. You mentioned that you can have a Tinder profile that you pay for that is hidden from other people. So does that mean they only respond if you swipe on them?
Absolutely. Okay. So it's like $10 a month. And if they can't see you unless you swipe on them. So I mean, I definitely have swiped past people that I know, and I'm just like, thank God I'm paying for this, because this would be awkward when I see you at work tomorrow. So I think that's a good tip for people out there that are looking to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we haven't used it. We intentionally do not use most other platforms because there is not that privacy wall. Because privacy means a lot to us. I mean, that's part of the reason why Andy isn't here today. He just doesn't want to be given away.
Yeah, and just to be clear, like, he was totally fine with you telling the story, but just didn't want to be on the show himself.
Absolutely. I've been talking to him about this for months now, and he has finally said, yes, you can go do it. And I do want to point out that everything that I'm saying is from my point of view. So he might have had a little bit of a different experience, but for the most part, I feel like our minds are the same.
Right. Yeah, and I think everything's been pretty factual at this point. It's not a whole lot of opinion, but
yep.
Awesome. Well, so you had a couple of threesomes, and where did things go from there? And along this path, you kind of said you didn't have the communication skills, but were you starting to see these skills in your relationship like growing and changing over this time?
Totally. We're over communicating everything. When we first started, I think it was, there was a lot of rules, like only I can communicate with them. And, he was signed into the account, but he had to ask permission in order to say anything. Just a lot of like very rules that like made me feel safe. And as time went on, I was like, no, I don't want to talk to these people. You talk to them because it gives me anxiety. Like, I hate being on dating apps because I hate the chase. It's the worst part of even just being single and being on a dating app. I hate it. So eventually he totally took that over. So like things changed. Once he started taking over more of the responsibility, he was just making sure to like over communicate. He'd still ask for permission to say certain things. And eventually we had like several other like threesomes over the next like year, but it wasn't until, I think the following year I had surgery and I couldn't have sex. And we had been talking to a couple girls, and I was like, I feel like, why don't you just go do it? Like, go hook up with her. And we had both been talking to one particular girl. She was super sweet. We hadn't met, but I explained the situation. I was like, I'm not going to be able to like do anything for at least several weeks. But if you want, I'll share my boyfriend. And he ended up, we talked a lot that night, and I was maybe a little bit drugged up, but I was still like, I want to do this. I feel like I'm turned on right now. Like, let's just see where this goes. If let's experiment. If it doesn't work out, I won't be upset with you. I promise. But if we don't like it, we're just not going to do it again. And that's honestly how we live our life now. Like, we will push the boundaries, but if there's ever something that like makes me uncomfortable or him uncomfortable, we just stop and we just don't do it again. Or, if it makes me uncomfortable at first, and then like 3 days later, I'm like, you know what? I think I actually like that. Let's do it again. So that happens too. So he ended up going, and they hooked up and sent me videos, and I have never been so turned on in my life. Like I felt so weird after that, but thank you to her. She was like totally okay with sending me videos and like making me feel included. And I mean, I still have one of those videos. It's still like some good material. So, after that, I was like, what is that? Like, why do I like that? And I did more research and I figured out like what that type of behavior is called in the kink world. And I guess I'm kind of a cuck queen. I enjoy watching my partner with other women. I'm definitely not one of the cuckolds or cuck queens that like the whole like humiliation part of it, but I enjoy like the, just feeling that good jealousy. And I mean, if she wants to tell me how good it is, I won't stop her. That's great. But I don't want to be I want anyone telling me like, you suck.
Right.
That's nothing to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was really the first time. And it's kind of just like grown from there. I think the next time was when we were trying out Cassidy, based on y'all's suggestion. I used your code. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Hopefully it was a success. Otherwise, that's not our fault.
Well, I mean, it had a success, but it ultimately, I don't think it was the right vehicle for us, but we ended up, trying to say like, maybe this can work for us. I'm not interested in being with other men. And so we kind of just put it out there on our profile, like, hey, I am down to play with other women, or if other ladies have a hall pass, feel free. Like here he is. And, we got a response from an older woman and she was a very like beautiful lady. She was going to be in our area, and she was very sexual. Like her profile was clearly very sexual, and we talked back and forth to her a little bit, and she actually jumped on a Skype call with us, and I got a chance to meet her. I was really sick at the time. I had the flu, and she was like, oh, well, you're a beautiful girl. Like, too bad you won't be joining us. And they did that again, and they sent me videos, and it was great. And that's not to say that there were no hiccups at all. Like that night in particular, I was like, man, why is he taking so long? And I was starting to get nervous. I was getting anxiety. And when he came home, he was just like, I'm so sorry. She talks so much. Like I could barely get a word in. But after each of these instances, he came home and he was just like straddles me, hugs me, and is like, I love you so much. I just want to be with you. I love you so much. And like so it was like, I never felt bad about it. Like I was never jealous. I mean, I was jealous in a good way, but I was never like threatened, I should say. It was just really sexy. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where we are today. Like,
and it sounds like he's done, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it sounds like he's done a pretty good job, reassuring you.
Oh yeah. He is so concerned with my feelings, and he would not do it if I didn't push him out the door. Like he always just makes sure like to ask before he leaves, like, are you sure about this? But are you really sure? But really, are you really sure? And I'm always like, yes, go. If I didn't want you to go, I wouldn't want you to go. And there's been times when like something has happened that made me uncomfortable. And we're like, okay, well, how can we avoid that situation in the future? But it's never a fight. It's always like, that made me uncomfortable. For this reason, like, I think that we shouldn't do this moving forward. And he like agrees, and he has his own suggestions. So I think that our communication now is just like the best. Like I can't even attribute it to anything other than our journey through non-monogamy. It's just, And I hear that a lot on your podcast. I think everyone, it's just like don't go to therapy, just have threesomes.
Although you did say
I would
earlier,
say that's not endorsed medical advice.
Yeah. And you did say earlier that therapy saved your life. So maybe both.
Yeah,
things.
combination of both is best. Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that's where I am now, and we've done it a couple other times since then, but by no means is this something that we're doing like even every month. I'd say our relationship is really monogamous, and this is just something that we do from time to time. Maybe when we get a little bored, or like when we just want to. I think that it's important to have to identify a balance between our different sex drives, though, because I think if he had the opportunity, we would be doing it more. But I'm like I only need this every now and then kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And especially because I've moved more away from wanting to have threesomes, not because I don't like women or because they're not fun. I think my sexual preferences have just changed. And ever since we kind of lit that fire with my kink, it's kind of hard to go back when I can't fully enjoy the aspect of it that I want to enjoy. Like I just want to watch.
Right. So it's easier for you to not be there physically, right?
If I could be there physically to watch it, that would be amazing. But I don't feel like all women are really comfortable with that. Getting a woman to have a threesome is a hell of a lot easier to get a woman to be like, hey, can I watch you fuck my boyfriend? Like it's a little weird sometimes, and they just kind of unmatch you.
Right. So have most of the experiences then been you're there and it's a threesome, or do you just oftentimes have him go and you stay back and hear about it later?
So that's most of our experience with non-monogamy is threesomes. I'd say majority of the cases.
Right.
But the majority of the times when we're satiating my kink, it has been him doing it alone. There's only been one girl who's actually my favorite that has let me be present, but I've also wanted to partake in that situation. Like, it was one girl that we met together, and she's just beautiful. Like, I love her as a person, and as a lover, she's just really like great package. You guys should talk to her. Yeah. So when we met her, she was new to having threesomes, but she was really like interested in exploring her bisexuality. She's just a really sexual person. And we met her and we're like blown away when we met her like in person. And when we went back to our place, I was kind of explaining to her like my kink. And as she got to hear more about it, I feel like she was deliberately trying to like make that happen for me. So while we did all engage in sex together, like halfway through the night, like I'm making us all snack because sex makes you hungry.
That's true.
So I'm making a snack and I like look over to the couch and I look over and she is just going down on him, and he's just looking at me in the kitchen from the couch, just like smiling and nodding. And I was just like, oh my God, like, oh my God. It was like the most sexy thing in the world. I finished what I was cooking. And I think I was actually deliberately taking my time because I was just like wanting it to happen more so I can just watch. And then they go to the bedroom and like, I just stayed out of it for a while, and she like was fine with that. And I think she actually even liked it a little bit, just kind of voyeuristic. And, she's definitely our most regular partner. And since then, I think we always just engage in it together. But that was really cool of her. And she's totally down to help a girl out.
It's good to have a wing woman.
Yeah.
It is. She's the best.
So I mean, maybe one thing that people have a little hard time like wrapping around is that like you started from a place of like trauma, like you said, right? The infidelity and the I'm going to leave you and go have threesomes without you. And then coming all the way full circle to you're in such a place now where there's enough trust and communication and everything to where like you want to encourage this person who cheated on you to go and do the thing that was so hard to have happen, 2 years before.
Yeah, to a lot of people, it'd be hard to wrap their mind around that.
And I can understand that. Like, looking in at our relationship, if I were to explain this to somebody, I know that they would think I was dumb. Like, there's no doubt about it. But I now see, like, after going through what I went through, and I know this is the best possible situation for both of us. I think I had always been open to being open, but I'd never felt safe enough to do so. And I don't want to tell anyone that change is like going to happen for anyone, because I honestly think most people don't change. I got really lucky with Andy that he did change and he kept all of his promises. And since then, we don't hide shit from each other. I know where he is at all times. I have his location on my phone. I have all of his passwords. I don't ever use that anymore. I might have at first, but he really took the steps to rebuild that trust. And after figuring out like that I have this kink, it made sense why we were having such good sex after we had gone through that trauma. Like, I was processing all these women having, had their way with my man, and I sexualized it. And I feel like that's more powerful than being hurt by it. Like, I took something that hurt me and now it's something that I enjoy. So I get it. Like, I think that anyone listening to this will probably still be like, I don't understand. That's dumb. But you'd have to live through it to really get it. And even recently, like, my friends who once hated him have come to me and they're just like, he's changed so much and I'm so happy for you. This is the guy I'm going to marry. So if anyone that knows me knows that I am now a happier person than I've been ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And have you seen changes for yourself? Like, you said, right, you're happier now, but have you seen other shifts in who you are through this journey?
Yes. I don't take shit anymore. I feel like now I feel strong enough to communicate with him when I feel like he is being an asshole, and I'll articulate why. We use a lot of the tools that our therapist gave us. So therapy is important, but I am able to articulate myself better than just like breaking down and crying. I am more honest. I value my relationships more. I am I make sure that both of us as a couple are very respectful to women. Not that we weren't before, but like, I just witnessed the change in him compared to like our initial first year. Like, he is so respectful to all these women, and it means a lot to him to be respectful to them too. Like, he makes an effort, and I'm just having more fun. Like, I feel sexier. Like, it's hard to be in a long-term relationship because you lose that fire. And I've gone through that before. I've been in pretty long-term relationships, and even I in the past have lost interest on some levels, like going from having sex like 4 to 5 times a week to having sex once a week, maybe less than that. That sucks. So when you have something to like kind of like light the spark every now and then, it's more fun, more open. I'm way more open to just a lot of things that are not sexual.
Yeah. Have you, how open are you with your friends about this? I guess I'm just going to assume that since it's mostly a sexual thing, you probably don't tell all your family about it. But I'm just curious, like on the family and friends side, are you open about this?
No. Yeah, you assumed right. Because it is mostly sexual in nature, I just feel like it's not their business.
Yeah.
And like I said, he's a very, very private person. So I don't want to make him feel uncomfortable. I would love to tell my best friends because I think that they would get a kick out of it. But I out of respect for him, I'm not going to do that. Like,
right. Yeah.
If he like described in detail my boobs to his guy friends, I'd be like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" So,
yeah,
that makes sense. Sorry, I stole your question, Emma. I know that's one of yours.
I know it's one I ask often.
You can take mine now.
It's okay. How about sexual health? How have you handled that with? I mean, obviously, you've been through both like having your partner cheat on you, and then that like transition to threesomes, and you're still. How have you, I guess, handled that sexual health piece?
Sure. Well, he is conditioned, very, very conditioned to always use condoms. Like, I don't think he ever wanted to get a girl pregnant. Like, even eventually, if we want to have kids one day, I think that it will be so weird for him to actually like do that inside. Like, so definitely condoms. And other than that, it's kind of like the risks that we're willing to accept because we're mainly with other women. We don't use like dental dams because I don't know. I don't want to.
Yeah. And that's your choice.
Yeah.
No judgment.
We get tested extremely regularly. Every time we're with a new partner, we always do. And we're very clear about our results and we ask about their sexual health. But other than that, I don't really have to worry about my sexual health with other men because there are none.
Yeah. Right. Well, I was curious too about that. Do you ever see, like, this is something you discovered about yourself, right, in the last 2 years that you didn't really know was there a couple years ago. I guess, do you see yourself or have you seen yourself discovering any other things that you didn't know were there over the last 2 or 3 years?
I will never say never. And I think that Andy and I will continue to experiment with certain things. He is not comfortable with me being with another man. I'm not really interested in it because, like I said before, I in order to be physical with somebody, I feel like I really need an emotional connection, and I just don't want an emotional connection with another man. I feel, for me personally, that takes away my connection with my partner. Everyone's different, and I think it's what we're all willing to accept. Like, if Andy's never comfortable with me being with other men, I'm completely okay with that. The thought won't even cross my mind. And I'm perfectly willing to accept that. I don't see it as being like a fairness issue. But maybe we'll try other things though. Like, I've talked to him about potentially going to a sex club that isn't in our home city. And I don't know, this Desire place that y'all keep on mentioning, maybe, but I don't know how I feel about the whole naked thing. I mean, I'm fine with it, but like, Andy doesn't even get naked just around me walking around the house. Like,
well, to be fair,
bizarre.
He can wear shorts if he wants to.
I will go on the record saying that I wear shorts 90% of the week at Desire.
Oh, really? I felt like everyone, like, you stand out if you wear shorts. So I was like,
yeah, I do.
And I hear that there's a threesome weekend at Desire at some point.
Oh, really?
On their website.
I'm sure.
Like, oh.
Yeah, I'm sure there is. We just don't know about it. Usually they encourage you to take your to be naked in the pools and hot tub, but I mean, at that point, you're half underwater, right?
Yeah, but you see a lot of women who wear their bottoms.
Yeah, so. It's really like whatever your comfort level is.
maybe. We'll see.
I'm not trying to convince you to go. I'm just saying I wear my shorts all week and oftentimes a long sleeve sun shirt. So it's really just like any other resort for me, but everybody else is naked. So.
Yeah. Other than that, I don't know. I mean, I think that we're still relatively new to being like non-monogamous, comparatively. Like y'all have been in it for a decade or so.
It's not a competition. You've had way more threesomes than us, so
that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I just feel like we have so much more time now to like continue to explore, but we're pretty like vanilla in terms of like actual sex. So like, I don't see us doing the whole like BDSM thing, or like, I'm not a sadomasochist. I don't enjoy pain or giving pain. Not really.
Hey, no, it's awesome. And it's awesome that, like you said, you're both willing to experiment and try things. And if you don't like it, you're not going to do it again. And it's awesome to see that you've come, so far in the journey, right? Like you've gone from a really bad place to a really amazing place in a relatively short amount of time. And it's awesome to hear that.
Yeah. And it sounds like both of you are just like really excited about moving forward in your relationship and what it might bring. Like you said, you'll never say never, but you have some ideas of what you are interested in, what you may not be.
Yeah. I mean, and I feel like talking about it, it seems like we do a lot more than we actually do. Like, for example, right now we are pretty monogamous. Like we go through phases, and I think everyone kind of does, but
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things in life, right? And sometimes you're just busy with other things.
Yeah. And like sometimes if we're not feeling super like confident physically, right after Christmas, after you eat like 7 pies, like I don't really want to have a threesome or be naked with even my partner. So I think that times change, and like maybe once I'm feeling more sexual with women again, that will change and I'll want to have more threesomes. So
Right. Awesome. Mm-hmm. Well, is there any final thoughts that you have that you'd like to share, or kind of wrap things up for us, and we'll let you get along with your evening? And
I mean, I just want to say thank you to you guys, because you guys started your podcast right around the time that we started to explore things. And so listening to your episodes of like really put things in perspective for us. Like we've sent each other multiple episodes of them, and we're like, yeah, this doesn't make like 100% sense, but like I'm taking bits and pieces, and it really helps. And I mean, Dan Savage is awesome. I'm not a book reader, so I haven't read any of those. I actually downloaded, what's it called? Like Tristan Taormino's book.
Opening Up, yeah.
Or The Ethical Slut. And I didn't read it, but I want to. It's the intention that matters.
Exactly. That's what I always say. Awesome.
But yeah, other than that, that's just us. So thank you guys.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing your story. And again, we're hopeful that, somebody out there resonated with them, and that maybe they'll come on and share as well. And I think that's, the thing that when you reached out and you said, we haven't heard anything like this, and we struggle to find stories like this. And I guess just for everybody that if you're feeling that way about your story and you think it would be helpful to share it, I mean, this is a great example. So thank you for being willing to do that.
Absolutely. Anytime.
Yeah.
Oh, real quick. Do you have any funny bloopers that you can think of off the top of your head that you'd want to share?
I'm sure I can. Oh yeah. There was one time when we had met this like great girl, but it was like kind of hard to nail down a time with her, like kind of wishy-washy. And we had been drinking. We'd been doing some day drinking on this particular day in question. And, like after you come home and you like put your night clothes on and you're like ready for bed-ish. You're just like, get ready to relax. You've been drinking. You're really tired, like really, really tired. This girl hits us up at that very moment when I'm like, oh, I'm relaxing. And she's like, hey, like, do you guys want to hang out? Like, I'm down. And in being in a couples dynamic, like if a beautiful girl is telling you that she wants to hang out, like those times are elusive. They're fleeting. So you have to say yes most of the time. So I was like, yes, how am I going to do this? Oh my God, I'm so tired. So I go to the kitchen and I start taking shots because that was what made sense to me. I was like, I'll wake up if I take like 3 shots right now.
And
that seems logical. By the way, that seems very logical.
Maybe you could take espresso shots. That would be better than.
Yeah, dumb. But I took several shots and we went out and I was fine. Like I was like, it did work. I was awake, but I was a little drunk, and we proceeded to have another drink with her, come back, and then we were drinking more. And I just blacked out and I passed out naked on the couch in the middle of the threesome.
Well, it could have been worse.
And those moments when you wake up in the morning after having blacked out and your eyes shoot open, and I just turned to Andy and I'm like, what happened? It's like, wait. And it's all flooding back to me like, oh, we met up with that girl last night. Oh shit. I don't remember, where is she? And he just like let me know, like, yo, you passed out like naked on top of her nipple. And that was pretty embarrassing. I had to text her and I was just like, I was like so embarrassed. But I guess that's a blooper.
Yeah, no, that's a funny one. I mean,
I will say though, in a weird way, I mean, maybe it was, you got to experience the cut queen piece, right? Like you were blacked out and he got to do his thing. So you were there and not there all at the same time.
But she didn't get to watch.
Well, but that's
I think I actually ruined the moment after that.
You got to power through those moments.
Like you would.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Self-deprecating story. We appreciate it.
Yeah,
we appreciate your humility.
We're all human. We all make mistakes and do funny
stuff. I don't
stuff.
like it when anyone humiliates me. I just like to humiliate myself.
Hey, I'm with you.
That's the type of queen I am.
There you go. That's a very unique fetish. I want to humiliate myself in front of you. Perfect.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you for sharing and for everything. And we're excited to have met, and maybe someday we'll get to talk to Andy if he's ever feeling gregarious.
Yeah.
I'll let him know you said so. I'm sure he will hear you.
Yeah.
Hear it.
He will. Straight into his earbuds.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you again. Thank you to Andy for letting you share, and we will be in touch.
Yeah. Have a wonderful night.
You too.
And we're back. Thank you to Kerry and Andy for being vulnerable and reaching out to share this amazing story.
Yep, it was great, and we're excited to get it out there in the world. And again, it's one of those that we know is going to help somebody out there and give hope to somebody who is probably going through a difficult situation. So thank you again. Next week, we have a fun interview, a crazy... Hoo boy.
Yeah.
It's a doozy.
Hold on for this one.
It's a doozy.
Laura and David take us through their story, which is amazing. Also,
it's just amazing.
Kind of a story of what not to do, in their own words.
Yeah, they said it, not us. But it is great, and they're great people, and they're doing great work in the community. So come back next week, listen to that. In the meantime, head over to our website, check out, previous episodes, pictures of our guests, resources that we recommend, and again, maybe check out the Patreon community, see if it's a fit for you.
Or reach out to us.
Yeah, say hello, and we will say hello back.
Our website is normalizingnonmonogamy.com.
And with that, we will see you next week with Laura and David.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for listening.